Alright, so welcome back to another class build in Modern Warfare. Today we're going to be going over a party mode kind of class I built for strictly party modes. And this is going to be going over a one that I have made. And it's essentially, I named it Dark Ops or like Night Ops or whatever like that. Essentially it's night maps kind of set, like Hackney Yard, Gun Runner, all these on the night version of themselves. There's Azir Cave or Azar Cave. I probably mispronounced that twice, and Ramaza. The four maps that you can do in party mode so far that's in night. I doubt they're going to be adding any more of them because they kind of got rid of the whole night vision deal. But there we go. Uh, Today we're going to be going over the class on how you're going to build this class in order to play this game properly, or what you're going to be using in order to, play the game on how it's supposed to be played. So let's go ahead and go to weapons, and we're going to go down the whole entire list of the whole classic. Essentially, there's different ways of building this, and I'll be going over every bit of it. This may take some time. Here we go. Now for this, I picked the first primary being the M13. Pretty fast rate of fire, and you know, it's pretty fast too. There's two attachments that we're going to be looking at that gives it the most amount of stealth they can use at night. And let's go ahead and go over it. So right away for the barrel, we put on the Tempest Cyclone. So technically this counts as a heavier barrel, so it does give you a penalty to aim down sight speed, so it's a lot slower there by about a frame or so, or about 2 frames. It's not so much at all. Pros being sound suppression, obviously it is a integrated suppressor, and it does increase the bullet velocity since it is a larger barrel. So what that does is essentially give you the pros of having a bigger barrel while also giving sound suppression, so you get two attachments in one. So I mean, why would you not want to go with that? But if you don't want to run the suppressor on there, what you could do is just throw on any kind of barrel. You really don't need to worry about any other barrel. You could put on a flash guard if you want to. And what this will do is essentially make the muzzle flash, or like the bright fireball that comes out of your dang gun when you fire every single time, doesn't show up. So they will still hear the sound of your gun, but they won't see where you're shooting from. So it's more of a scare tactic, but for more of like being stealth, I would go with the Tempest Cyclone because it essentially gives you two attachments. And let's go on to another attachment for stealth will be the ammunition. Now it does have its own special ammunition called the .300 Blackout 30 round mag. Now these rounds have no tracers, or like the smoke coming out from the air really that's piercing through the air, somewhat of smoke when you first fire it, and has no enemy skulls when you kill somebody. Like their teammates won't be able to see where they are, so you stay completely hidden. This is really good against like big groups in a party mode. And of course damage range has been buffed since it's a lot faster round. Cons being bullet velocity, even though I just said it's a lot faster round, for some odd reason it does say it has a little bit less bullet velocity. That doesn't happen. It actually has a way higher range. If it says damage range up top, it's actually way more. You can obviously see there that the ranges went up a little bit. Cons recoil control. This thing will have quite a bit of recoil, but I have it on cert mode to where seriously like one or two shots will kill someone. It's not necessarily hardcore, it's the realism mode where there's no HUD and everything, and I'll be going over that later on when we go over the party mode. Now this is where you would have certain gadgets to help you out seeing things in the dark. Now in this night mode, normally you're supposed to be fighting it with NVG goggles or night vision goggles, so you'll be able to see stuff pretty easily. So in this mode, you are restricted from using night vision goggles. You're not supposed to be using it. So we use different attachments to help us out, spotting people, and also helping us better gameplay, finding other people. So the underbarrel launcher. Now there's several ways that you can do this. You can go with the M203 40mm incendiary underbarrel grenade launcher, which will shoot a thermite grenade out of it, and it'll blow up and light a certain area for a pretty good couple feet or so, or a couple meters, and that will light it up. So every one of these will have 1 to 2 grenades in there if you're running not overkill, fully loaded. If running fully loaded on there, it will give you 2 grenades right off the bat, and that will light up any 2 areas that you want to light up. And again, that only lights up like a good couple of feet. Now again, of course, it's thermite, it will do damage to people. The cons being aim down, sight speed, and movement speed. I mean, it's a pretty good amount of weight for, you know, to put a grenade launcher underneath your gun. So there's that. And here is to help out a little bit more with finding people or kind of giving away your position, even though this is not necessarily meant to help you. It just makes the gameplay easier for other people, but it's still pretty easy to control. Now it is the variable zoom scope. Now the main reason I'm using it is because of the low magnification it has and the optic glint mostly. So the optic glint, even at night, even though there's no sun at all, okay, so because normally you would have to actually have the light of the sun or any kind of like light flashing off your scope in order to make the sniper glint. That's the light refracting off of it there. It doesn't. It's still there at night, which doesn't actually work in real life. If you're at night and you're using a sniper scope, you know they won't be able to see that unless you have a light shining right on top of your scope. So there's that. The zoom level, of course, is going to be up because, you know, you can have it at the highest of 6.1 times zoom, and magnification toggle, you know, between the two, cons and sight speed. But what this really does is essentially gives you a bright white light in front of your guy or in front of his gun anytime that he's looking at someone. And this only happens though in a 20-degree radius, and so it's pretty easy for you to like look away from someone and then look back at them and fire again. So it only happens right when you're looking directly at someone or close to being directly at somebody. So it only gives them a little bit of time to see that and be able to fire at it. It works out a little bit. Now you could either use that or you can go to the attack laser, which is essentially the same thing, but with attack laser, instead of being a bright white area, it will be a bright green little dot in the middle of your gun with green lines going off on the side of it, and of course the laser is shooting straight forward, so enemies will know where you're aiming at if you're using this. And it's essentially the same thing as a sniper scope, but it doesn't have that 20-degree rule, so you can be aiming essentially anywhere and enemies will still be able to see your laser. So I wouldn't really use that, but it is a little bit better. If you aim the laser directly at someone's face, it would technically blind them where they can't really figure out where to shoot at you. So it's essentially acting as a dazzler or like a different laser attachment that blinds or confuses the enemy if you aim at them. So that's kind of a trade-off there. So if you want to use that, you can go ahead, but there's a little bit more downsides to it, so I just went with the variable zoom scope. Now, of course, there's different ways of building this. Instead of picking incendiary grenade launcher rounds, you can go with flash grenades, which only flash for like a brief, you know, half a second after they blow up. You know, it's not a whole lot, but you would have that little bit of flash to see where enemies are. This is probably the worst one you could possibly get for illumination. There's that. And then there's the recon grenade. Now what this does is it's a little drone that you shoot out of your grenade launcher, and when it hits the ground it'll fly up and shoot a flashlight everywhere until it hits walls anywhere around it, and it'll light up a really large area for a good couple seconds. Now normally in the game you would be flashed by this and it'll mark you and it'll have like a weird red outline of an enemy or the body figuring of an enemy through walls and stuff. So I'll be going over certain classes and stuff that gets rid of that effect, because you know you're really using it for illumination, you're not really using it to know exactly where enemies are. So it kind of has a little bit of a twist there, but this is probably the best one you can do in terms of big flashes of light for a whole area for a brief second. Or you can go with the incendiary rounds, which is a little bit lower light that affects a smaller area, but it lasts a little bit longer, so it's really up to you on how you want to play that. So this is essentially the build that I gone with for the primary weapon, and this has already taken like an hour long. But for the secondary, now the only gun that you can use for a secondary that actually has a sniper glint is the 357 revolver, or if you want to, you can switch to the Renetti, and I'll go over that in just a second. So I just gone with the longest barrel. These attachments don't really matter at all. Like all these 4 attachments, they don't really do anything. the one that you really want to be looking at is the Lockwood pistol scope. Again, it has a 4x zoom, but the optic glint, it works exactly the same as any other sniper optic glint. And again, you can use attack laser if you want to. It has the same exact rules that I listed before. And that's really all I'm using the secondary for. Usually you don't need to resort to that. So here's the perks. Now this is pretty dang important. So double time. Double time, I'm not really using it for its like the sprinting movement to it, even though obviously you can use it for that. But it's for the 30% crouch movement speed, so you can still be somewhat stealthy while move around the map a little bit more. That's really the only reason why I picked it. Perk 2 is Restock. Restock will be helping you out with lethals and tacticals, which I'll be going over, and this is very essential. Now if you want to, you can also run a high alert if you want to, drop off the, free grenades and stuff like that, or thermites, which I'll be going over, if you want to get a little bit of more information on an enemy if they're looking at you. And then this is where this is the one perk that you always need right here. It's called Battle Harden. Now it says reduce strength of the enemy flash, stun, EMP, and gas effects, and that essentially just makes it to where flash grenades, stun grenades, EMPs, they don't really last as long for their effects, and you're essentially immune to it, but not too much. But you are immune to snapshot grenades. So what that means that when a snapshot grenade shoots up out in the air and has a big flash, it normally, marks you and gives you that outline. This makes it to where it will not be able to do that. So you need that in order to stay stealthy. And then for the lethals, I'm running with a thermite. Now you can either run with a thermite, again it acts exactly the same as the underbarrel grenade launcher. So when you throw it, it lights up like a good couple feet around it in every direction, and it lasts for a pretty good amount of time. Or you can run with a Molotov cocktail, which essentially does the same thing, but it just has fire around it and it covers a slightly larger area. So either way, these will work. Tactical, I ran with again a snapshot grenade, so you're able to throw it out and it'll shoot up into the air, have that big flash of light, and just gives you another one to go with. If you want to, you could run a decoy grenade, which will start shooting a ton, or it'll make, not shooting, but make the sound of a rifle shooting or any kind of gun shooting, and it'll bounce up and down and have like these small little flashes. So you don't get a whole lot of light from it. It's nowhere near being as good as a thermite grenade, but it is a little bit of a decoy, I guess. I mean, it is a decoy grenade, but it kind of throws off your enemies. And when enemies look directly at it, it will have a sniper glint to it, which I don't think it lists here. Yeah. So I believe that was in like one of a stealth change they put into this game, but it does have a sniper glint. So when they look at it, it does look like an enemy, and you can have that. Now the heartbeat sensor, you could use that if you want to. I mean, that would probably give you the most amount of information on somebody. But if you want to light up a way bigger area and cover a lot more radius than a heartbeat sensor, snapshot grenade is definitely the way to go. Again, this is just several ways you can build the class. And that's essentially it. That's just the way I built it right now. So again, this is all just kind of revolving around being able to see in the dark without using NVG. And this actually gets really fun. And now we go on to the mode. So let's go to mode and game rules. Now I put down the time limit to be unlimited, and I currently have the score limit at 35, but this will depend on how big you want the match to be, or how big your party will be. So more people, obviously I'll be bumping up the points a little bit more. The match start time will just be 5 seconds, so when you spawn in, 5 seconds already up, you're ready to go. It just gets you into the game faster. There's not a whole lot there. Skip and fill, that's just like the animation of you going into the map. Again, it just gets you into the game faster. For the team, I enable minimap, so I turn off the minimap map completely, so you can't use any information like that. So that is completely off. And then gameplay is mostly where this comes in. So realism mode. Now this hides all HUD elements for more immersive and realistic experience for the description here. So what it essentially does is make it to where that every time you shoot an enemy, you won't get a hit marker. I mean, you can hear your bullets hit them, but you won't ever get a hit marker. And every time you throw a flash grenade or like a snapshot or a thermite, normally if it hits an enemy, a hit marker will pop up on your screen. even if they have battle hardened on, if it makes them immune, if the flash grenade still hits in the area where it should technically light them up, it will make a hit marker normally. So this makes it to where that realism mode turns off all those hit markers and stuff. You have no idea when they're actually hitting them. So it makes it to where you can only really use snapshot grenades as a source of light and no other information. You don't even know if someone's even over there. And I did upgrade up the field upgrade charge rate. Now this is essentially an ammunitions box that gives you free grenades and stuff like that, so you can get it every couple seconds and use it to light up a certain area, and this kind of speeds the game up a little bit. And there's also the field upgrade score modifier. Every time you get a kill, it is a guarantee that you'll get your field upgrade right off the bat, so it's essentially instant every single time, and that just speeds up the game a little bit more. I retain streaks on death. I disabled that. I'm not entirely sure why. There's really no reason to be doing that, but that's essentially all the game mode rules they would use. And from there, you know, that would essentially be the whole game. But what you would want to do is go to options and then turn your brightness all the way down to 0, so it looks more or less like that in the loading screen. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a game, and I'm just going to be playing by myself here. Actually, you know what? Let me get... Nah, I want to go ahead and jump to a game by myself here. I'll probably go over like a gameplay video or something after I get my friends and stuff in here, but you get to see how dark this area is and see how this mode actually plays out. I mean, as you can see, the NVG does give you a pretty good line of sight of everything. It's still pretty dark, but it's still there. I take it off. This is how dark it is. It is quite literally pitch black. You can't really see anything. Now if I take a thermite though, I can light up the area, and you can see that lights up a very small amount. But after I throw a thermite, after this thing goes away, you can see a big flash of light right there, and that's what you're supposed to use in order to see where people are. Again, they won't have any hit markers or anything to them, and you kind of use this as a source of light. Now again, every gun you use will have a sniper glint or a laser sight attached to it. If you want to, you can combo both if you want to be incredibly obvious. But I don't really recommend that. Obviously, there is no actual way for me to actually see what I'm aiming at here, and you can't really see what I'm doing. So this is essentially what it looks like in night vision. Now again, we're taking off the night vision as well, because if you put on like a 1 milliwatt laser or anything like that, it will show it through night vision and stuff. So there's that. And it, you know, of course, you know, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of this mode. So this is essentially it. It's a really cool party mode, or I think at least. Me and my friend tried it out, and it's fun as can be. Somewhat scary, and of course there's different maps that we can play on. Here, let me go to this deal. Flash guard, yeah. So instead of running like the muzzle brake or whatever I was running on here for the muzzle, you could probably run a flash guard to cover up that flash, but they can still hear the gunshot, obviously. And I mean, this is essentially it. I'll be setting it up pretty soon. It's essentially already done. I got different class ups and stuff that you guys could try out. There's different guns that have integrated suppressors and all the attachments that you really need, but they don't really have the no tracer rounds. The only other gun that actually has the no tracers is the MP5, and that's with a certain barrel. I mean, this is essentially it. It's a pretty cool game. It's supposed to be played really, really slow. It's more or less kind of like a way scarier version of Rainbow Six. So, yeah, there we go. M13, the 357 with a both scopes right here, using the sniper glint or the laser sight, that if you want to use that, so you can actually see what you're aiming at somewhat. or if you're aiming at a wall. If you're actually aiming at an enemy with a laser, I mean, it's kind of hard for you to tell. So there's that. Perks, lethals, tacticals, all that stuff just to help you illuminate the area around you. And again, you can use a Molotov. Let me switch over to that and I'll show you what that looks like.
Reload.
So that's what the Molotov looks like. It doesn't light up as near as much, but when you put on your night vision goggles, if anyone wants to, you know, like cheat, I guess, you could throw that right there. It kind of covers up a little bit more of their screen, so they can't really use it as well. But that's really part of that. You can also run dead silence. I forgot to mention that. So you can run essentially infinitely while being quiet. Since you know, I got the recharge rate for the field upgrades up, and you know, the dead silence is usually the fastest or recharge speed out of the whole field upgrades deal. And again, this is essentially it. It's a pretty fun mode, and hopefully I can get more than, you know, 2 to 3 people on here. We can play, and we would have, you know, a legitimate match. This would actually be pretty dang good. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll think of more like party modes and stuff that we could set up for this if you guys want to join me. I'll definitely be putting it up on Instagram, letting you guys know roughly around what time I'll be doing it. So you guys can go ahead and hop on. And I'll see you guys in the next one.